Commissioner Jacobson. Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Mathias. Commissioner McHale.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson. Here.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, any corrections or additions or modifications to the agenda? I say let's move Barlena Barn to item A in discussion items before this first budget. Okay, with you guys? Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, matters from the public. Robert Wyman?
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. I am a concerned citizen in regards to the Hill Farm, or the barn that the Park District owns. And last time I talked to you, I think we talked about trying to find out a use for the barn. And also I promised you a history of the barn. And finally, I did pull the history together for you guys and all the owners. So I'd like to give this to you so you have it on record. I didn't do this all. I went to the McHenry County Historical Society and they helped me out greatly in regards. The barn has quite a history, and I think it's one of the best barns, if not the last barn in Crystal Lake. And you guys own a lot of history, so I'd like to give this to a clerk or someone. Okay.
Can you tell us when was the barn built?
1884. 1884.
140 years.
And the cool thing about some of that paperwork, it actually advertises in the paper when they were putting the barn up. So it was, and who put it up. So it's really interesting. So but I just wanted to make sure you guys know what you have. You have history. Thank you very much.
Okay, Robert Cosine?
Yeah, Commissioner.
Thank you.
I also appeared last time before you. I also hang out with Bob Wyman in Crystal Lake, but not as long as his family was here, as well as an unnamed gentleman behind me. But more than that, one thing I have learned from my relatively short tenure in Crystal Lake is the record of its history. As part of the last presentation I made was to ask that you consider whatever your future choice is to record that history of the barn, its construction and its existence. On that interior tour, that beamwork and structural work is something that one would not ordinarily see. To share, recognizing this is a public meeting, as a member of the Crystal Lake Historic Preservation Commission, we do an annual trolley tour. I'm not going to pass out requests for tickets among you, but I hope you give it consideration. Part of our task is to create a trolley tour book and bring forward items. We're finding it very difficult, even though our timeline right now is somewhere in the 1950s, is to find records of buildings that have been moved, removed, or moved again, especially in the area of Brink and William Street. Because it was while I was in Brink and William Street, yes, I admit I too go to Starbucks more than I should. There's a wonderful picture of the M.E. Church. Little is known about its time was there because that time was all thought of, we would not forget it, so common, it's so ordinary. Now one has to stand there with their coffee and wonder, where was that building? And that is my comment is, with technology that is available to us, we could make a record so others would know what was on Barlena Street. Thank you.
John Street.
Can I turn on the microphone for them, please?
Stand back. I'm John Stride. I'm with McHenry County Youth Sports Association, the MCYSA. And I know it's early, but we're chomping at the bit. Our tournament starts on July 12th and finishes up on the 21st. So you'll be getting a lot more information about the tournament as it approaches. And we really hope you'll come by for one of our events. We have opening ceremonies. We have a Armed Forces Night. We've got a first responders charity softball game. So we really hope you'll come out and join us this year. But I'm here tonight just to give you a little bit of update on the tournament, and more than that, to thank you for your partnership. This will be our 31st year of the tournament, and we recognize that we wouldn't be able to run the tournament without the support of the Park District, not only use facilities, but all the help that the staff has given us. So we really want to thank you for that. This year's tournament, we've got 95 teams signed up already, which is up about 50% from last year. This is the highest enrollment or registration number that we've had since 2017. And that was the year of the monsoon. So we don't bring back that kind of point for ourselves. We've got 9 international teams. That's part of the reason we've got so many teams coming to play against the international teams. We've got 5 from Puerto Rico, actually 10 international, 5 from Puerto Rico, 2 from the Dominican Republic, 2 from Brazil, and 1 from Japan. So it should be a good tournament. We're playing most of the games either on Mickey Sun or in the Bonkoski Complex. We're playing some games at Sporo. We're playing a couple games at the Crystal Lake Little League field across from Mickey Sun Complex. And we're gonna use almost every available field for every available day. So, does anybody have any questions? Again, I just want to thank you very much. Please keep a couple days open, and if you could sneak out there for a game or two, it's a good place to be, and it's pretty exciting to see all the young people out there interacting. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Yep.
Mark N. Am I saying that right? Or Mark?
If it's Sparber, I said no, I didn't
You
want to.
said no. Okay. Someone said mention it anyway. Okay. Did I skip you? Sure, were you a yes or a no here?
He was a yes.
You were a yes? Let's hear what you have to say. Please.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Well, lots of things have gone through my mind. Should I give them a history lesson while I'm here, or shouldn't I? Probably only have 2 minutes, right?
Take your time.
But again, thank you for, I'm sorry I missed your deliberations on the future of the farm. I know you worked hard at thinking it all out and talking it all out, but I missed out on all that thinking. I heard from somebody that I won't name that the barn is gonna be torn down, and I said, hey, can you get me in there? I want to tour it before it gets crashed. Well, I don't have a key. Talk to Jason. So I called Jason, and he had another guy with a lot of keys, and were nice enough to come over, and I met them, and they got me into that barn. I don't know if any of you or how many of you have ever gone in the barn. You've probably driven around it, but ladies and gentlemen, holy moly, what a structure. Oh my God. You can't go anywhere around to see how that thing is put together. It's got posts this big that are held with little pieces of wood that are pounded in there that held up other things. It's something that you will not find in the books over there at City Hall. they probably would say, oh, you can only put 2 roofs on it because it gets too heavy, maybe 3. With the way that barn is structured, you could probably put a half a dozen shingle roofs on that thing. It is a monster building. And to be 140 years old, to live through a 1965 Palm Sunday tornado. And it came very close to that barn. I remember the family die in that tornado. And his barn got torn down just after he got done shooing some kids out from Sunday basketball messing around in his empty barn right by CVS Pharmacy, where it used to stand. So it came over here from the southwest to the northeast and wiped out a heck of a lot of Crystal Lake. I'll never forget it. But I can give you a little history lesson today. I mean, there's so many things. I would hope you own a copy of this. I would hope you own a copy of this just for your own private library. Lots of pictures about this town. This is when we were 150 years old in 1986. I got in on writing that one. Then I have a whole collection here of a study that was done. I think Bob and the rest of other people that were involved forwarded to you, and Jason says it's online so you can view it. But it's a study that's at least a couple of years old, along with from the research library of our historical society. But if you could buy me a little bit of time, doesn't cost a little anything. If I could get a little bit of time before you decide to bulldoze that thing, I would love to come back to you and prove the point of either spending some money on a new roof, period, or I'm going to touch a lot of people I know to help pay for it. But I do not want to see it. It is just a complete loss to tear it down. It does not have to be a Taj Mahal with all kinds of modern conveniences. It's a barn. Right now, it's excellent dead-end storage. Right now, you probably would be able to have several events in there. You've got close to 2,400, close to 5,000 square feet of floor space in the thing. That could probably hold up an M1 tank. So strong. And there's nothing, and it's, according to this study, it's still straight as an arrow. It's not sagging anywhere. What's bad is the outbuildings that are attached to it. The structures that those things represent they're nothing. They don't belong to the original barn. They were add-ons to help the dairy operation that was there. But I'd like to walk away tonight knowing that at least give me some time to put together a little more of a program for you to consider.
Well, we're gonna probably make quick work of the other agenda items and we're gonna get right to it. Stick around for a bit, you might.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you. Okay. Any introductions?
Real quick, one other matter from the public, Bob Miller sent an email yesterday and asked that we read this letter to the board.
I've got it.
You've all received
Yeah.
it, so.
Yeah.
I can read it if
I
you
don't
prefer
think
not.
You can be part of the record, right?
Yeah, it is. It's here and it's subject to play.
No point.
No. Right, so unless there's anything that you want off the consent agenda, can I get a motion to the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second it.
any discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Cagle,
Yes.
Commissioner Heisler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobson,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McHale,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes. Right, the mowing bid. Eric, this is just our general mowing.
Yes, every year we go out, for bid mowing, go small parks,
There's 20 parts.
and, that's it.
It's about the same as we had last year.
It's a little bit more than last year, $4,000, but it's very similar. Same contractor as well. So we're familiar with the contractor. And, they do a good job.
Anybody want to make a motion to select Four Seasons Care as the mowing contractor for 2024?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carried. All right, dump truck approval. And you want to tell us about this used dump truck?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're looking.
That was the old one.
Dennis was, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
It'll be the same.
No, dump truck came in under budget. We had $90,000. Came in at 79. That also includes the snowplow salt spreader. Put it within the fleet. Yeah.
You guys want to approve the purchase of the dump truck from Martin Chevy?
I approve. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
discussion. Let's roll call that.
Commissioner Heisler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobson,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McHale,
Yes.
Commissioner Cagle,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes. Scott, will you talk to us about the intergovernmental agreement?
Sure, I think others of you know about it than I do, but I.
Can you please use your microphone? Yeah.
I think more of you may know more about this. But the city has been looking to bring back the Crystal Creek for many years. It was buried as part of the development there a long time ago. What they're asking of the Park District is two small easement areas across from Lundall and Crystal Creek Road. And as part of it, they're also going to give some money to relocate a backstop that is used for your T-ball, right? Or is it?
It's not really used for anything, but they're willing to give us some money because they're taking it out.
So the other folks use the one that's west, yeah. So this is a project that the city's got grants for and is working on.
At least 4 years.
It's been a long time coming. It's been a big priority, you know, it's.
Anything else on that?
No, that sums it up. It's a very small portion of our property, so it's going to be a good property for a good project for the community.
So, would anybody like to make a motion to approve? the
What
ordinance?
about discussion?
Oh, yes, please. I thought I asked you. Go ahead.
Is there any benefit to just giving the city that small piece of land?
Not really. I don't think so.
It's a permanent easement, right?
Yeah, it's a perfect easement. It's a larger tract than the Park District owns. It gets to the creek.
It's more work to divide the pin, I think, to transfer.
But
Well,
would we save labor by not having to mow it or care for it?
They'll be taking care of it because it's part of their project.
So we don't have to care for it and it's a permanent easement, why would we keep it?
Well, I think to transfer it, we probably have to do a division of the pin, right? So that's extra legal work.
Give you some action.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, they would probably pay for it, but I think it's just the same when you have permanent easement.
I also think it's good to ask the question.
And you did ask.
Yes, yeah,
Right. And if that doesn't satisfy you, we can.
yeah, I'm satisfied.
No, absolutely. It's- Okay, any further discussion? So I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 23-24-13.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second,
I'll second it.
it's an ordinance, we should do roll call.
Commissioner Jacobson,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McHale,
Yes.
Commissioner Cagle,
Yes.
Commissioner Heisler,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Then we have the tree preservation ordinance.
I'll actually have Amy speak to that a little bit more since she was heavily involved in helping put it together. But it involves a grant that we received that we have to create this. for.
15,000.
Yeah, we will be receiving 15,000. It's for planting 75 trees. We planted a chunk of them this last fall, about 30, and we're planting the rest of them in April. And as part of the grant, we were required to do some due diligence and upgrading our ordinance. So, or adding, creating a tree ordinance and updating our urban forestry management plan. So we're in the process of updating that, and we'll see that soon. But this is the ordinance, and it basically is a document that acknowledges that we understand that there's value to having trees on our property. And that we are responsible for caring for our trees, but that if any damage to our trees happen by other people, we can fine for those damages. So it's just raising the bar of how we manage our trees. And so I ask respectfully that it be approved.
One question I have really quick, under the approved species, Rosa Sharon is listed, which is actually invasive. So I'm just gonna formally request that
Sure.
we don't,
Yeah, that's.
we don't use, and really, we don't need to plant for Sharon.
I agree
So,
with you on that.
yeah.
Graph, right, they developed the,
I know,
yeah, and
Yeah.
they're right now in the review process, but I will take note of that and make sure it doesn't
Cool.
remain. That's a good comment.
Would you like the list to be modified?
That's
I-
gonna be the urban forestry management plan
Yeah.
with a tree list. That's the other document, not this one.
right, it's fine.
Yeah.
Just don't plant for
I know, I agree with you on that one.
Anybody else? Right, so, somebody a motion to approve.
And with that said, I would make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. McHale,
Yes.
Mr. Cagle,
Yes.
Mr. Heisler,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes. Okay, so Arlena Barnes, let's kick this off.
So at the last meeting, you guys gave me a stay of execution for the barn and 2 weeks to come up with good ideas on what possibly could happen. So that was a Thursday night. That Friday, I did a whole lot of calling and a whole lot of talking. I talked with MCC and asked if they'd like to be involved. They're unable to take on more projects at this time and don't have enough funding for what they have. They declined. I called the McHenry County Farm Bureau. They had no idea on how to find funding to save the barn. I called, I think his name is Todd Price, who Jason used to work with at Glenview, who is the head of the Farm Foundation, and asked him for ideas. Glenview has a historical building very similar to the one that we have. And he said there is very little funding out to save barns, and it's very hard to find grant money for it. So at this point, I was feeling rather dispirited. So I reached out to Diane Kinney, who runs the Historic Society out of our Colonel Palmer building, and I talked to her, and she directed me to Brittany Nyquist, who runs the City Historic Preservation Commission, along with 2 or 3 of the gentlemen who are here tonight. And I asked them if they'd meet with me a week ago, Wednesday night, and I posted a little thing on the Crystal Lake Times Facebook page, which is a small, well-moderated Facebook group that a lot of local politicians belong to, and asked, would anybody be willing to meet? And from that, we got Jim Heisler and we got 3 other community members to come and meet. So a group of, I think there were 7 of us met at last Wednesday night to talk it through. What was new news to me was that this building qualifies as a historic building because it's built in, what was it, 1882?
1884.
1884, it's older than we thought, and we now have the documentation to back that up. We already have one plaqued building that we own, which is Main Beach, and we care for the Colonel Palmer building, which is another plaqued building. So we have, as a park district, a history of recognizing, preserving buildings of historic significance to our community. Okay, that's cool. That was great to know. But then the question of how does one pay for this? How do you keep the building here and pay for it? And what was an eye-opening concept to me is we don't have to use the building. We just have to keep it. We can take off those side structures that are in terrible condition. We can patch the holes that exist. We can put a new roof on. The roof is blowing all over the place. And we could technically leave it there, and the barn will stay for years in that condition. To keep the history of our community, We don't have to spend $2 million turning it into a wedding hall. What we need to do is commit to keeping historic buildings. We have $90,000 currently allocated in our budget for the demolition of the building. Amy was kind enough to provide ballpark figures that are more or less appropriate for right now. And within that $90,000 budget, we can get a lot, if not all of that work done. So I would like to ask that for the sake of what is important to our community, of our identity, of maintaining our history, of being different from communities that don't have history and that haven't taken care of our identity, that we maintain this barn. We have the funds right now to stabilize it and keep it. That's all we need to do today. We can ask the city to plaque it. That comes with both benefits and with obligations. We can take the time to consider that. We can take the time to consider how much money Jim Heisler and friends can raise for this wonderful, unique, irreplaceable building. We have a foundation that can receive those funds, and I do think that a barn is something that people will donate to. But what we need to do tonight is to say, yes, let's put it on the agenda for the next meeting to save the building, to keep the building. I don't think it's a stretch at all, and I'd really like you to ask you to keep this part of our community. I think it's irreplaceable, and I don't think just keeping it is a financial sinkhole.
No, I would say based on the new information that I heard tonight, based on all the time and effort that you put into all of that, I think that what you have put in front of us is, I think, not a bad idea.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know how long was when the Colonel Palmer House was taken up with the Park District, they didn't really do a whole lot with it in the beginning, correct?
No, it's been,
And over time, that's been something that has been improved over time. So what you're saying would make sense, because then at the later point, if you have different entities that, you know, historical societies or whatever, that would be willing to kind of assist in the improvement of the thing.
The
And
development of ideas.
yeah, no, I think based on the information that I've heard so far tonight, I think that's a pretty good idea.
Amy, you wanna tell us what we need to do if we're gonna keep it at a minimum?
Well, at a minimum, the roof and the lean-tos have to be removed, the siding put back on to protect it, to make it somewhat weatherproof, and the roof repaired. And the silo itself needs attention because the bottom of it has eroded so much from the acid from the silage that you can actually see through. And we need to make it a little bit more animal proof. There are a few beams, the structural beams that have rotted out at the base.
Rain bin or
This main barn, that there's a big beam on the south end that needs to be replaced. So that means jacking up or hoisting or holding the barn stable so you can replace that beam that spans the whole thing. And there may be some others, I don't know. And I do know that, you know, the siding needs work also. The foundation, as per the report that we had done, Ann had done, needs some work too. So there are some issues there. Short term, we need to get the water back to the plots sooner than later. And then my question to you would be, reading the report and hearing, you know, the comments, it sounds like the two accessory buildings, the milk house and or the corn crib, are not necessary so much, or maybe at least the corn crib, but I think it's kind of a unique building in itself. But you know, so do we save them all? Do we save a piece? Or do we, you know, how do we identify what we should save, number one? And then, you know, it's most important to make it so it's not a hangout place for vagrants. And I know we'll check and make sure the doors are locked and stuff, but safety is my biggest concern.
what do you think we need to do this coming fiscal year to just preserve?
Remove the lean-tos, fix the siding, put the roof on, and then we attend to the beam as soon as we can. And
How
then,
much can we do next?
And then structurally, you know, we need to have a structural engineer come in there and.
Would that be similar to the cost of the demolition? Or would it be more?
No, the roof alone was more.
Yeah, can you remind us of what that figure would be?
Well, I see that, you guys got some extra new quotes.
Yeah.
So we're looking at just the roof alone and doing it in shingles was either 145 or $110,000. Were those prevailing wage?
Yes, they were.
So that's just the roof.
And what's the estimated length of how long that roof would last once it's been replaced?
Probably 20 years. Shingle roofs to 20, 25.
I mean, I know there's new technology with different kinds of shingles and stuff, so.
But, you know, you have to put all new, they're. Yeah,
So 150
150 for the roof.
to get it stabilized for this year.
That's just the roof. That's not the.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not the removal of the side.
No, I think we would need a total number, basically, of like, what would it be for this year to accomplish that checklist you just said? Before we can make a decision, and then like, you know, every year after, here's what the total, here's what's, you know, projected, obviously, of what the cost would be to have a building stand there. That's what I would need to see.
And Jessica identified, my friend Jessica identified a grant that we could apply for historical building, for helping to preserve a building like this. I think we might need the historical designation to qualify for the grant. I forwarded the grant to Jason, so that's a possible source of funding for this. And part of what the grant would fund is things like bringing in a structural engineer to look at what work would be needed.
I know the city offers grants for such, but it's only $500.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so I think 150 is going to do the roof.
Roof.
And siding
Siding would, I would guess maybe 100, 150.
for total roof and siding?
No.
No, just
Separate.
Separate, in addition,
250.
250,
The
300.
siding, you're not talking about metal siding.
No,
And then removal of those outside buildings.
the lean-tos, yeah, I would think that would be in around, you know, again, the siding and the removal,
That's
probably
nice.
around 150-ish, I would guess to make. And then that beam on the south end. would
Well,
be-
that might be.
I have a beam in Indiana, but it's not that long.
So
My brother's
I
going.
was trying, I mean, if we're serious about this, I think tentative budget should include it.
Yeah,
So that's the decision for tonight. Now, this isn't our final budget, but we need to be honest about what we're doing here. And I think we need to add 160 to our tentative budget, right? 'Cause
I can't agree to do that.
you're not agreeing to pass the budget. This is just tentative. So next meeting, you may say, no, we're not gonna do it. But, well, let's see who everybody else is.
I have a question, or I wanted to say something. I hear, Jim and, you know, and Kathy. What I liked hearing what, I think it was Robert, right? Recording the history. Cause I understand what we're talking about, trying to keep it and, you know, it's important. And I do believe it's important, but then we are just talking about the dollar amounts of putting it in a place that's comfortable to safe, we'll use that word. So I do like the thought of definitely doing some recording, to, you know, both internally and externally, and, you know, doing stuff like that. I just don't, we've had discussions about this barn for a while, and I don't know if now we're going back and trying to make it a historical, is that, do we have the budget for that? Is the unknown, and what does that look like for our future? So yearly cost to keep this, once it's all fixed and historical safety, then what is the cost to keep it? So, but I like the recording thought process for sure.
So I think to find out where we're going on this, if somebody made a motion to increase the budget with respect to the barn, the tentative budget, so this isn't a done deal, by 160,000. But I think we're at least heading that direction. If not, then we're done.
Could I have one more comment, please? As you recall, we did have some community input meetings, a while ago, and we had surveys. I don't know if you have thought about some of the input, but I do know that the community was concerned about, turning it into something else. I don't think there would be any issue with them. Most of the community, responses, if we just saved it as is, but if we turned it into a venue where we have events, there was much concern about that. People did not want to have more traffic in the neighborhood. They were interested in either taking it down to create a park, because that's what we do, we're park and rec. Or they were, the comments were toward, it needs to be safe. And, so we never talked to the community about saving it, because our intent was to take it down. So that would be a question I would have, because if we leave it, we are losing the opportunity of putting park features in there. And so I just bring that to the attention. I think it's a beautiful structure. I mean, it smells amazing when you go in there. It brings back memories from my mom's parents who had farming, she grew up on a farm, but I just wanted to make those comments.
So I think this is all good. I think we're gonna continue this discussion at the committee of the whole. And we're gonna kind of finalize it at the next meeting, because that's when we'll approve the budget, right? But if we've got a majority of the board that wants to, that is serious about it now, then I think it takes a motion to increase the tentative budget by 160,000
I move to increase the tentative budget by 160,000
for purposes of preserving the barn.
for purposes of preserving the barn.
And this is a tentative.
Yes.
Is that above the 90,000 that you have
Yes.
budgeted?
Actually, the quotes were for, roughly 150, and if you add 150, I need 300, ish.
Right.
So 190 plus 210, I need.
210. Well, I think that's the number then.
Okay, I'd like to amend my motion to increase the tentative budget by 210,000 for the purpose of saving the barn. Preserving the barn.
Is there a second?
I would second that. I think that, we need to weigh out what's the investment of putting that in there versus what's the return on that? Like, is that investment gonna, and I think with maybe just a little bit more information, I would be able to make that decision.
So I do think we should have this on the next couple of journeys.
Do you, is there any interest? I know Karen mentioned interest in hiring or in getting the historical documentation.
Yeah, what
So
they
to
have
hire a
done
consultant
today,
to do that.
Well, and even what they gave you, you have some.
It's,
Something.
Could I say something real quick? Can I'll get emails and I can copy everything
Mhm.
with that. And that would be great. If that's okay. So everybody has, because I did the history and also had the McHenry County Historical Society do the history.
I'd love to see how much money you guys could raise. That would be awesome. if
Yeah,
you
that
could
would-
raise
that would
it
weigh
and
into
make
my,
change.
Overall decision at the
You
end.
bet. You bet.
Any further discussion? This is important. Oh, go ahead.
Just a couple of things. I just want to reiterate, it's in the neighborhood, so we have to be cognizant of that with anything we do moving forward, because it is in the middle of it. But safety obviously is a major concern of staff, that we want to make sure whatever we do is going to make it safe for who's ever around there. And then the third thing is parking. Parking really isn't going to expand much. If we can move the garden plot somewhere else, we've got property that we could do that on. But the back half of where the garden plots are is floodplain, so we can't develop that area. So we're very limited on any additional parking that can go there. So future uses, I'm just throwing that out there now because it's something that'll come up when we start to discuss future uses. If we do that, those are going to be some limitations we have to take into consideration. So I think that needs to be on the table.
We do have all the land, if you're facing the barn from the road, there's a lot of land on the right-hand side, really directionally impaired. I don't know what direction that is.
West.
West, but there's a lot of land there that we own to get to the property line that we could do.
Possibly.
And the back up to someone's backyard.
Well, no, there's a fair amount.
There's apartments.
Well, apartments.
But there's room behind the apartments, and then there's a tree line, and then there's a really and truly fair amount of land before it gets to our residents.
All right, any further discussion? Let's do a roll call.
Commissioner McHale,
No.
Mr. Gagel,
Yes.
Mr. Heisler,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
I'd say yes.
Mr. Johnson,
No,
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you all. Okay, so on the budget. Does anyone have any, other modifications to the budget?
I don't have any modifications. I talked with Jason about this earlier. I had concerns or questions, I guess, about raising the head of our marketing department to a director position, and I asked whether that was being proposed to increase salary ranges for salary purposes. And he said, no, it was because of the size, the volume of work they do and the importance it is to the organization. And he can, of course, correct me if I misinterpreted what he said. And we only have 2 people in that department. So my question to him was, if it is so critical and they do such a volume of work, maybe what should be done is instead of having 2 people in there, we should have 3 people and an intern rather than making it a director level position.
And what I want to add to that as well is that, and you got it right, but to add to it as well is, to me, almost the biggest part of this is the succession planning that goes into making organizational structure changes. I think if we were to lose these people and try to hire new people on to do the work that's currently being done, we wouldn't find people of the quality of what we need to do that work. So it's part of knowing that they're not going to be here forever, and let's plan ahead and also get this in place now so that we're not scrambling when the time comes. In talking with them, they've absorbed a part-time position that went away during COVID that we didn't bring back. We could always look to do that, but they're comfortable with how things are going now without having that position. So the succession part of that is I think, really important to the discussions.
So any proposed modifications based on that?
No, I just feel vulnerable only having 2 people in a department that's critical. And it seems that they're working so hard, losing one would be very vulnerable.
The one piece of information that we don't, at least that I don't know, is when you're comparing, because they've compared to some of the other park districts in terms of the success of our marketing and all that, I'd like to know, like, do they have 3 people? Some of the others, or I don't know.
Some do, some don't. Some park districts have.
I mean, I know some of them are larger, like Rockford.
Right. Where I came from, there were 3, but one of them was specifically in charge of what's the digital monitoring of, well, not social media, but it's the monitoring the metrics of social media, which is not something I think we necessarily need to get. What we do monitor and measure, and that our staff are capable of getting that information. A lot of that is, you see that in the reports. So I don't want to throw positions. I said this at the budget meeting. I don't want to add positions if we don't really need the positions. If it warrants it, we'll certainly come to the board and ask for that. But you know, they're comfortable with what they're doing, and I think we can find people of their caliber when they move on. But it's going to cost money, and then we're finding that with a lot of jobs. We're not hiring people at the bottom of the salary range. It's not how the world's operating right now. So
you're saying with our current staff that we're doing an adequate enough job?
yes, and that's with their feedback. Every year I ask them, do you need more help? And they take it as, why aren't we doing a good job? So
okay,
I'm looking at it as, no, I see how busy you are, and if you need the help, we want to get it for you. So, but that's feeling on it.
So I'm fine. I just wanted to share what my concern had been and what I had explored and learned.
I have something regarding the harvester, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but So I was in support of us collecting sticker fees. And, we're proposed to collect 74,000 sticker fees. We're gonna pay 38 to the village for safety patrol. So our net is 36,000. And what we've done is we've taken what we spent for harvesting last year, we've taken it out of those funds. And what we spent on the harvester, we're capitalizing, we're paying for the harvester out of those funds. And I thought, that's fantastic, right? That's what we want to do. I don't think it's enough for harvesting. I think we added 15,000 for hay associates, and I can't believe that we're gonna do more of that. Maybe we will. And so, and a lot of the folks, the lake folks, that I said, let's do this. Let's take away the issue of park district shouldn't be paying for this. Let's pay for increased sticker fees, people that use the lake. And so everybody got on board with that, and then we get the budget, and the budget really just had the harvesting number the same, pretty much. Now, we're doing it with staff, so we'll get more done, right? But I think it would go a long way toward not riling up the people, and we are just kind of learning this year. So what I'd like to do is still economically neutral, but I'd like to move 10 of the 15,000 to hay and put it toward the harvesting, right? And so it's not gonna cost them. We're in a much better position than we were last year with respect to all this stuff because we're getting from sticker fees. But we're not, I felt like it was a bait and switch kind of thing, not purposely, but I'm like, oh my God, we agreed to this and it's the same thing, right? Again, I know we're doing more, you'll do more with your folks and you can contract out. But I think it will go a long way toward not motivating people to attack us and hopefully making a difference on the lake. Again, if we change the budget to move the 10 of the 15,000 into harvesting and away from hay.
I would need to know what we're gonna lose from hay if we do that.
I don't think we know.
So the IGA was based on that harvesting would be covered by the boat decal dollars, as well as any additional above and beyond work that hay would do outside of the scope of what we budget in the corporate fund. So the answer is what Eric said. We really don't know because, so if we start having milfoil return, they'll go out and do spot treatments. I see that money coming out of here. If some other new invasive comes in that they can knock out right away, that money would come out of here. To Eric's point, I'm okay with doing that because this year is truly just a test drive of how this is all gonna work. Are we gonna get more bang for our buck harvesting ourselves? Yes, because we paid $12,000, I think last year for 4 days of work. You know, they charge a lot more than we pay our guys to be out there. So we're gonna do better from that perspective. So I'm comfortable with that recommendation, but I also, you know, the problem with the lake ecology stuff is nobody knows what it means. And how do we educate the community more? We have the lake meetings, the information's on our website, but nobody knows about it. I had a 20-minute phone call with the gentleman last week who was very upset that the boat sticker fees went up. And what's this lake ecology stuff? Hay doesn't know what they're doing. And it was one of these phone calls where a lot of questions I try to answer. Next question comes and can't get a word in edgewise. And finally, I put a stop to that and we had a very good conversation. But at the end, he understood, but it took a lot of educating. This is the work that they do. This is why they do it. And, you know, the topic of dredging came up. Well, the recommendation is not to dredge because why do you dredge when there's a problem? Right now, the problem on the west end is it's not deep enough, or on the north shore, it's not deep enough. Well, that's the way the lake is. It has nothing to do with a dredging situation. So having those discussions with people definitely helps. By the end of the conversation, he was happy with what we were doing and understood it. So I think that's part of it. So, you know, Eric and I talked a little bit about this earlier today, and I think it's an education thing, but how do we do that without, like you said, rivaling everybody up and creating an issue that doesn't exist? I think if we didn't manage the lake, it'd be a disaster. I think with what the park district does for the lake is outstanding. And at the end of the day, the park district's a shoreline property owner just like everybody else on the lake. So we have a very big vested interest in it because if our beaches can't open because the lake's not healthy, we're not taking care of the whole community. So I think
You'll pay less people to everything goes that way anyway.
So I'd like to jump in and say, I don't know that we've ever heard or agreed on what the goal with harvesting is and what is too much and what is too little. Have we?
Well, again, that just depends on what's happening every year out there. I mean, if we have constant massive weeds that are a nuisance and causing problems, we're out there taking care of it. If it's a light year, we're not doing much work. And that happens from time to time,
So it's our staff making that judgment.
with the help of Peggy,
Okay, with the help of pay,
yes.
right? So we're gonna need to pay them.
We're not talking about not paying them, paying them a lot. This was $15,000 extra.
Right.
So what's the total to pay this year?
We have budgeted 80, so it'd be 85 including this.
So 85.
So we're not talking about increasing or decreasing total funds spent between Hand and Lake. We're just talking about reallocating.
Yeah, and also on top of that, we've got the lake users saying, we're gonna pick up the harvesting costs. We're gonna pick up the harvester costs too. And so not to give them what they're
Right.
clamoring about is like, why would we do that? It's, I'm sorry,
Who's paying for it?
we're getting what we used to pay from our general funds,
Oh,
From the
because of
state. right? So paying for the harvesting and paying for the harvest, right? So I think that was a great, like, let's work with them if, they're willing to do that, right? So anyway,
So Eric, based on the small sample size of using the harvester last year, do you think you could estimate whether it's gonna make a difference?
Oh, it'll make a difference. For them. But, depend on the instance of the weeds and all that, it's like, weeds are real heavy things, we're gonna be out there a lot, I believe.
Mhm.
But that's just it, we really don't know.
Right.
You get out there, you need a season. I mean,
How many
And I
days
think
did we,
that really needs to
how many
be
days did we use it? How many days did we use it already?
5 or 6.
Okay.
But we got it, towards the tail end. And it's already kind
So that's really not a big enough sample size to really know.
of- No, it's not.
so I
Yeah.
don't think we're ever gonna know that. Dennis is monitoring.
Eric,
Still there.
See, what am I supposed to take?
Hey, can you switch your?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's always gonna be Eric determining what we need to do. We're, as a board, that's not something we're gonna decide.
No, I know, but I just was wondering if just based on those 4 or 5 times you used it, if you could tell anything about. No.
After the season, definitely.
Then, yeah.
But then also with a reminder too, like every season's gonna be different.
Well, that's
You
true.
all know that.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I think
It's like
the big rally cry this year is that we're figuring it out and we're gonna do our best. And there's gonna be some bumps in the road, just like there is with anything that's new, but the fact that we have it at our disposal, it makes it easier for us to get out there and deal with it. And
So this has nothing to do with the budget, but I heard a rumor that the leader was chewing up turtles and fish.
there's, it's possible.
It's like, oh,
How do you get it over 5 times they use it?
Well,
They've seen it, but they're also being proactive when they see it, they slow down, and that's part of what slows the process down, is that that's a problem, they're gonna go slower, so those animals have a chance to get out.
just,
well, and I don't even know how. And because when it pulls, it's not like it's fast.
it's,
I mean,
Moving it further.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Turtles kind of get out of the way,
We'll get more.
Yeah, like one of those deer whistles on it.
that's all.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, I'll make the motion to approve the tentative budget as presented with the modification related to Barlin Farm and moving $10,000 regarding the harvesting or the lake ecology from Hay and Associates to actual harvesting.
Second.
Okay. All right, let's roll call.
Mr. McGill?
So this includes the Barlina barn, your motion?
This is the tentative budget, yes.
So put it on this way.
Yes.
What does that mean?
That means this is just what we're saying, this is what as of now, this is what our budget looks like. We can change it before the next, regular meeting, because that's when we're gonna vote on the budget. We have to publish that we do have a tentative budget on file.
I'm saying no.
And I know your concern is that you want to bundle it together.
Right.
Yeah.
Commissioner Cagle?
Yes,
Commissioner Heisler?
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobson?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
No,
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
motion passes, so the budget will go on display as soon as we make these adjustments to it.
Yeah, and again, this is just tentative, and we keep discussing this, but we need to move on. We don't have to move to the end budget. If we didn't pass, we just push it to the next one. Okay.
The other thing we talked about too, real quick, you had asked about the percentage of appropriation, and our district uses 20%. I did survey 10 other districts, 3 use 10%, 3 use 15%, and 3 use 20%. There was one that did 25%. A couple districts have been adjusting certain accounts, basically their corporate and capital have more because of the instability in repairs and replacements and things like that. So I don't know if we want to make any changes, but 20% isn't out of line. It's
Seems high. It's at 50%. What do you guys think?
I would love to go with 10% and see how we work with it. I think the goal is with the budget should be to come in pretty close.
That's precision.
Although the two particular items that we've been talking about tonight could make that difference. If you do 10%, then you maybe wouldn't have the money to do the harvester and
Well,
the.
it's not,
Well, then we'd have to face the.
I know.
yeah, but it's basically, exactly, we have the money. We do have the money. If you look at the financing, it's whether we appropriate.
Right.
And so we'd have to reappropriate. You're right. It's not terrible, but it sends a message to the public that we didn't quite come in as well as we should have.
Yeah, but I don't really see us coming off as being fiscally irresponsible either with the 20%. But
Okay, so I like 10%. Can you live with 10%?
We'll do our best. We typically don't go over, so I don't think it's a huge issue.
would it be possible to cut it down the middle and make it 15%?
I could go with that.
I could go with that.
It's progress. We call it that.
I would be okay with that.
So,
So we'll adjust the appropriation ordinance to 15%.
I don't.
No, it's just the direction, that's all. You'll take action. Okay, thank you.
Reports to the board.
I have a few things to add. Last Friday, we have a resident in the. Oh, the lake safety suggestion.
Good one. Thank you. So, we had a resident came in and he said, be good if, I think, the way I summarized it anyway, was that if we had our rental, people that are renting ours during wake hours, were instructed to keep the non-motorized watercraft within the no-wake buoy. And then if we recommended to the Village of Lakewood Patrol that they do the same, ordinance or what have you. So that was his suggestion. I thought it was a good one.
Can you clarify where, so is it between the shoreline and the buoys or between the buoys and the buoys in the middle?
Between the shoreline.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I
In the no wake area during
Okay,
wake hours.
That's what I.
Because previously we didn't have an ordinance for.
Well, we don't enforce it, but we'll ask Lakewood if they could add this to the list of rules and then we could update the rule sheet.
I mean, it makes sense. I know how many people rent boats and what they end up doing in busy days when there's boats going around and we've got our
And this would apply to
rental
everybody.
boats and all that stuff.
Everybody
right in the middle of them. And they're swimming off of their boats.
We
in the
control
middle of
the people that rent our
And they're not
Yeah.
even supposed to.
right? And so that would be our policy, but we'd also recommend to the village and the city that
To enforce it.
they enforce their ordinance.
Now, what were we talking about before about a jet ski?
There's a jet ski in the budget that will be used. That'll be part of the beach operations to go out and retrieve.
Because I was gonna think that if we had that jet ski and some of our rentals were, you want them ahead of time, if you go there, we're gonna bring you back in, and that's it.
That could be part of
And
the
then there would be a incentive to not do
Yeah.
that.
And we're not enforcing the lake rules, we're enforcing the rules to use our water.
Correct.
So I don't like it at all. I understand it's a safety issue, but I think it's prioritizing big boats over smaller crafts that don't pollute and don't make noise and don't go fast. I wish we could instead say no horsepower over 20 miles per hour. If it were in Illinois State Park, it would be what was it, 1.5 horsepower would be, or maybe it was 3 horsepower would be the maximum allowed motor size. That's never gonna happen. I know you can't go and tell people to take away from their boats, but I do think we're just giving bigger boats superior rights to non-motorized things, and I hate it.
Any other discussion?
Well, if you know the history of going way back to, since I've had the Crystal Lake,
I
I mean,
understand that, but I still hate it.
there's pitchforks and burning piers and all kinds of stuff that go on with that hit, burning of our police boat, yeah, moving the buoys and.
Yep, I still don't like it.
I think it's a great idea.
I think we're saving a life too.
I think so, absolutely.
That's all I'm looking at, is the safety aspect of it. We're literally gonna save somebody.
I mean, I agree that maybe we shouldn't have that many power boats out there, but it is
That's
what
a
it
different
is.
motion. That's a
It's
different,
a different
right?
subject.
Yeah.
And we're never ever gonna do it, so, oh well.
I know when I paddleboarded, which has been. We were not in the middle of the lake because there's too many boats. We were definitely on the wake, because you were describing where it was.
You were smart,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not safe.
So I don't think it's actually prioritizing. They're gonna do it anyway. So let's try to keep, especially the people that rent boats through our park district, safer. We've got a solution to kind of avoid some potential problems.
Okay, so we like to make a motion to establish a rule of the Crystal Lake Park District that our rentals during non-wake hours or non-motorized rentals stay within the shore and the no-wake buoys. And that we recommend to the village and the city that they enact an ordinance to provide the same.
I will make that motion.
Is there a second? Let's roll call this.
So how about we do this? Could we put that together, bring it to the board at the committee meeting for approval or for review? Because right now you're approving something that's not written. So let's get it in writing.
I'll get a policy in
Okay.
writing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that sounds
It's
good.
just a change to our
Okay.
rental rules, basically.
So it moves to discussion, but it's not approved yet.
Right, so let staff bring back the actual rule in writing so that the board can approve something.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, we'll do that.
Now, reports.
And so, like I was saying, we have a staff member from the National Recreation and Park Association that actually lives in Crystal Lake. She's the editor of the NRPA magazine. They all work remotely. So she contacted me about a month ago and wanted to take a tour of our park. So I took her on a tour last Friday and it was great. She saw a lot of things. She was really impressed with what we had. And she came back to us yesterday and she was going to write an article about the Sturdy Spot because of the uniqueness of what it is and that it's a very precious piece of nature, I'll call it. Hope I'm not offending the nature people by calling it that, but so that was pretty exciting. John Farina and Preston, our natural resources manager, are going to work with her on the article, and it'll be some national exposure for the Crystal Lake Park District. So that'll be a pretty cool thing. So and now that we have her ear, we'll try to find some other things for her to write about as well. So yeah, we'll definitely get that to everybody when it comes out. I don't know when that's going to be, but she said something about a deadline the first week in April, so or second week in April. So we'll keep informed on that. Community Cleanup Day, which is an effort between the Park District and the Chamber of Commerce, is April 20th from 8:30 to 10. What happens is people gather at the chamber, get bags and a donut, some coffee, and they're assigned to a park to go clean up. Eric staff essentially handles it all for us. But if you're interested, it's a nice day. If it's not raining, last year I went and it snowed, so it was interesting. The Nature Center exhibit ribbon cutting will be on June 1st. We'll get more information out to you soon. Amy will probably have some more information on where we're at with that project. There's an invitation in front of you about the ribbon cutting for the tennis courts at the Racket Club. And the last thing I had was the IAP Legislative Conference is May 7th and 8th down in Springfield. I sent that information to everybody, but I haven't heard back. If anyone's interested in letting me know, if you can let me know, please put hotels book up and all that kind of stuff. But we would leave on the 7th in the morning and be back by dinner. It's a very quick trip down to Springfield. So if anyone's interested, let me know. That's all I had. Kurt?
I was thinking you might steal my thunder, so if I missed anything on this District 155 meeting, please fill in. Jason and I had a really good meeting with District 155. Jason reached out to the superintendent about getting us in front of them to talk about teen programming. So we met with their Director of Community Outreach, I believe was her title. And we kind of said, hey, here's what we're looking for with some focus groups for teens. And she said, I've got this idea. We have a class at Prairie Ridge where local businesses come in. They give the students, sophomore through senior, a problem that they're having, and the students are the ones that are supposed to solve the problem for them. And we thought, so you want to solve this problem for us? Absolutely.
It was a 12-minute, it was a 12-second meeting. And I said, beautiful, let us know what you need.
So we are actually going to be meeting with them right after the kids get back from spring break. We are going to give them, we've already got an outline created for, hey, we want some team programming. What do you guys think? They're going to do some of their own market research, their own focus groups, and in a couple of weeks, present solutions back to us. What they are looking at, the class has approximately 20 to 30 kids, so there'll be 8 to 10 groups of 2 to 3 kids. Their idea was to videotape all of the kids' recommendations in terms of programming ideas, send them to us. We could watch them all. We pick out the top 3, and then we go and see the top 3 present live. And they said, we would love when the top 3 or whatever the number is get presented, whether it's staff or board or anyone that's interested in coming watch. They said the kids love a big audience. So it couldn't have been a better home run right from the minute we sat down. So this should be, it's exactly what we're looking for. It's getting teen information to us from teens. So we're pretty excited about that. So that'll be happening in the month of April.
Are you defining groups that you want them to reach?
We've talked about basically the kind of tween area all the way up to 18. We've even mentioned to them, you know, how do we reach those kids that aren't necessarily involved in sports all the time, involved in theater all the time, those kids that, you know, aren't already incredibly busy. So we've given them some parameters, but kind of left it also a little bit open-ended just to kind of see what they come back with.
Yeah.
Let us know when that is.
Yep.
Cool.
So that'll be great. So that was the highlight and pretty much
Well,
what I had.
the D47.
The floor is
So we had a
yours.
similar meeting with District 47 to hopefully meet with the junior high kids, and unfortunately, they don't have a class that does this work. However, they do have very eager students that are involved in student council who they are willing to have us sit down and talk with and you know, orchestrate some sort of discussion and gather information from the junior highs as well. So that meeting was as equally exciting, where they felt they had a specific group that we could go to that we could count on to help us with this. So 2 very productive meetings. So,
Can't start too early.
no.
Community involvement.
Right. So,
So that was it for me tonight.
Amy?
So I have a couple updates from, in addition to my report, Squirrel Park Playground. I have some pictures I'll pass around. It's almost done. It's 99% done. We're gonna do the attenuation testing on Monday. And if everything goes as planned, we'll have the fencing down pretty darn quick and it'll be open for play.
The same here.
The artificial turf has been, it's already there.
Ah,
The fence is
yeah.
up still,
Yep.
so the kids are, I'm sure, anxious to get in there to play.
Yeah.
The Nature Center, the exhibits, exhibit concepts will be there on Monday, April 15th to start installing the exhibits. That's a big deal. Our parks team has done so much
Just
work
time
in
for
preparing the Nature Center, removing the old stuff, cleaning things, building some walls and stuff in preparation for the exhibits to be installed. They anticipate 2 weeks of installation, and so really excited about that. And then the Nature Center Planting Day, the Dawn Breakers Rotary Club has volunteered to help us plant, and also a Boy Scout troop, was it 165, I think it is, and then a Girl Scout troop shall be helping us, and that's planned for Saturday, May 18th, if you'd like to join. It'll be a fun day, a fun morning. It's gonna be in the morning. John's gonna make his monkey bread and something else for breakfast, I'm not sure. And I've asked the Rotary Club, said, what can we bring? And I said, coffee, bring coffee. So I should ask them to bring orange juice too. Got that one, I'll do that. And another big deal is we received, remember that playground equipment? We received a grant that we got so much more. 3 semis, 50 feet long, were delivered yesterday morning, and our guys unloaded them at very heavy. I mean, our big front end loader could barely lift a few of the boxes, unloaded them, and they're at Main Beach right behind our facilities building. So that's exciting. They're just gonna stay there until we're ready to have the contractor pick them up. And then I guess the last big thing is we received the OSLAD grant agreement document from IDNR. We're reviewing that before we sign it and return it. So that's good news. They're actually a little bit more on time this time.
For Della Park.
For Della Park, yes. So those are my quick little updates.
Yay.
Lot going on right now.
The deck at Main Beach looks great.
I know, doesn't it?
Now, the problem with that though is now you look at the asphalt in front of it and you're like,
And the retaining walls.
yeah.
We're looking at trying to get a
Or at
price
least
for
maybe
the
get it
retaining walls. right
surfaced, I mean, not surfaced, but whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
it looks great. That was badly needed.
now. Next year, I'm gonna ask for next year, we're gonna put that in the budget,
Okay.
payment for the main beach, so. I'm hoping anyway.
Eric?
Yeah, thank you very much for the approval of the dump truck, contractual mowing. Other than that, we don't have much for tonight. It's supposed to snow tomorrow.
Yeah, go figure.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, we're ready. Eric's weather report.
Yeah.
From,
Yeah, I have comments. How did the barn dance go?
The barn dance? There was minimal turnout, I would say. Let's put it this way, I got a call Saturday afternoon going, hey, we had some people online ask, can they register at the door? And I'm like, we've got waivers, and if they're willing to pay, we will absolutely take them at the door. So I'd say we had somewhere in the neighborhood of about 25 people.
Thank you. Awesome about the EV charging spots. I'm so excited. Thank you for, I mean, I thought we had kind of given up hope of getting those. It's wonderful to read that we're gonna get 5 locations.
Oh, yeah, for the grant, we're waiting to hear about that, and I'd like to add 2 more locations. We asked that question if we could add some more locations. They are possibly open to that.
They just sent us a request for an update, so I want to meet with you early next week and we can put together the additional locations. So it's gonna be a process. This isn't gonna happen quickly based on our discussions, but at least the funding's there, and they said park districts played a very integral role in getting the funding from the feds because of what we do. So it was
And then
interesting to hear that.
who keeps track of the use of how often they're used and all that?
Well, I'm sure they're metered because there's
And
a
then
fee
you
to
have
use them.
access to the information and you know how successful that would be.
Again, it's gonna be a little bit of a process, and, we're ready to pull the trigger on Halligus Park as soon as possible. So it may not timing wise, so we may wanna just run all the stuff to get it ready and then wait to get the grant to help put those in at Halligus. So
That
we'll
will
see how
reduce our
that,
budget then, but we can get the grant money to actually install the station, we'll just have the infrastructure to it.
Yeah.
While we're. doing
the grants paid for running the electric.
It pays for, so what we proposed was about $125,000 worth. They'll cover 100,000. So we're basically gonna vote for $5,000 for each site that we would do. So, the cost in Halligus will go down substantially.
So yeah, that was exciting. And then the team focus groups, I can't tell you how elated I was to read about that. So thank you. I know it's a hard push to get to this point, but I appreciate you doing it.
No, it was always gonna get done, and I apologize it took as long as it did, but other things took precedent. But the fact that, well, if we knew it was that, a phone call and 2 meetings and we're done.
That's it for me, thank you.
Eric, were you satisfied with Tina's response to the insurance costs overrun or whatever? She reduced it in the budget by 10%, I think.
So,
Okay.
so just real quick to summarize it, the difference between what was budgeted last year and this year was a reduction of 20% in dollar amount, $218,000. So
Should we say that again?
the budget was reduced $218,000 from last year to this year. So,
In total, that's all.
yes. Yeah.
What percentage of that was that up to insurance costs?
As far as like what we.
So the whole thing was budgeted, we thought we maybe budgeted too much for insurance, and so we reduced it overall by 200,000.
Well, it was 20% reduction, I thought.
What is 20% reduction?
Yes.
And she explained it because she was just thinking if we had staff and whatever, and they were gonna use
We always talk different
the
language.
most expensive plan, family plan and all that.
Yeah, so we
That's how she
adjusted it as well to just be the plans that are currently being used. If there's a change, then we absorb that. The other thing too that we failed to mention and didn't think of at the last meeting was that we budget for all positions to be filled, because if they are filled, we have to pay insurance. So, that's just a strategy that too. We had 7 positions last year that were not filled for the 12 months. So when we were looking at those numbers saying, well, geez, look at the actual we've paid to date and we haven't come close to what you're saying in the budget. Well, part of that's because we're not paying it out because we didn't have second position. So that was part of where that downfall was. But the good news is we're $218,000. We're budgeting $218,000 less than we did last year, and hopefully it won't be that 25% increase that may be anticipated.
Historically speaking, we almost always finish up a year without filling all budgeted positions.
It seems that way, just because people leave, there's a gap that, when someone, it's very rare that we have an overlap when someone's leaving and someone starts. There's usually a month or 2 gap, if not more. But that's common practice. I mean, that's happened everywhere.
We generally don't go. We generally don't go over budget.
Correct.
Mike, thanks for that. I needed that and I was embarrassed to ask. Now I know. Thank
I was hoping that you'd be satisfied with the response.
Anything else? And, that's it. We adjourn.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Can you? The teams, both places.